I was born here in Virginia. I lived in Nebraska until I was about 10, and then we moved to Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan when I was 11. My parents were missionaries, but my dad was a university professor over there. And we lived there, well, they lived there longer. I lived there until I went to college when I was 18. And we were back and forth quite a lot for the births of 2 of my siblings, and then for various conferences and things like that. So that's the short version. I'm the oldest of 7 kids, and so there were only 5 of us when we first moved over there. The youngest, my sister, was 2, I think, maybe a little younger. And moving overseas with that many kids was very challenging for my parents. The airport was always a big challenge. My dad used to have us all wear the same matching sweatshirts or t-shirts so that he could keep track of us easily. And only one time my sister got lost in Heathrow Airport. That was kind of scary. But by the time I was going to college, we pretty much had a routine down, and it was pretty set. But it just made being over there, it just made it hard for my parents to focus on, the mission or the job, because we also had lots of kids to keep track of. We also homeschooled the whole time we were there. So my mom was at home with us doing school and just kind of doing what she always did here in the States. And then my dad would go to work, and it was totally different because it was a different country, but in some ways the same. It made it really hard to explain. So I saw my mom go from having a very supportive community around her here in the States, homeschool community, to having no language ability, no support family in the area, and even the churches we went to were in a different language, and so she also didn't have that spiritual support that she needed. And now that I'm a mom, I have all of those things where we are, and so I can imagine if we were to just up and go right now and take our kids. And so I think a lot of her struggle was taking all of that support away from her kids, and there's a lot of fear there because you kind of don't know how your kids are going to respond to that. Me and my siblings ended up loving it in Bishkek. I thought of that as my home by the time I left, and but it was really hard on my mom to raise kids over there. And I think that now that I'm a mom, I have a lot more respect for how difficult that was for her. And yeah. Okay. So we learned Russian when we were in Kyrgyzstan. I studied Russian for 10 years. And a lot of times when you study another language and you're immersed in it, it's easy for that language to become sort of your white noise. For when you don't understand something, you just kind of tune it out. It's really easy to have a conversation in a large group of people in another language because there's only so much you understand, and so everything else can just sort of be in the background. Well, when you come back to the States, it can be overwhelming because all of a sudden you understand everything, and that's probably the most difficult part about the airport that people don't realize is you get back to the States and all the conversations around you understand, and your brain just kind of overloads. And that was tough for me because I don't have ADD or anything, but it's really hard for me to hear something that I understand and not turn toward it and forget that I'm in a conversation with another person. And so I find myself having really short conversations and then getting distracted really easily by something else. And I think it's just because my brain is so wired to other languages, that hearing so much English all the time, it still can get overwhelming. Even, I think I've been in the States now for, 10 years almost? It was 2006, so 8 years. 2006 when I was a freshman, so 8 years I've been back, and I still sometimes just feel like there's too much English. And I get, kind of overwhelmed by understanding everything. Probably the thing I miss the most about Kyrgyzstan is living so close to the mountains. So we could see them from our house really well, and during the summertime especially, we would try to go hiking pretty much every weekend, even if it was just like 10 minutes outside the city. We would go up and hike for an afternoon, or usually the whole day. Our favorite places were really two places that were the closest. One was Ala Archa, it was called, and then the other one was Teplý Kluchi. I think that one means hot springs. I'm really rusty, so I don't remember, but I do remember like we would always seek out where the waterfalls were, and those would kind of be our mile markers. And so we would go find the waterfalls, and after a full day like in the sun, the waterfall was really nice and cold, and so we'd swim for a while and then head back. Always took a picnic, and we always tried to take friends, especially like people who had never been there before. We love to find somebody who hadn't been up before and take them with us and show them our favorite spots. And it definitely made it more homey to have like our spot up in the mountains where we would go every week. So. My name is Heidi Jackson, and I'm third.